Now, there also is interest in disrespectful political items.
Hi, I'm George the Antique Nomad. Come with me as I wander the country in search of valuable vintage, amazing antiques, and cool collectibles. We'll buy, sell, and trade at antique malls, shops, and shows, estate sales, flea markets, thrift stores, anywhere people go to find really interesting things that just aren't made anymore. So come on, let's go!
Hello everybody, this is George the Antique Nomad. A little over a month ago we introduced memberships, and memberships start at $1.99, and you can hit the join button or see a video that I did about what memberships involved. But the purpose was to develop extra content that we can all enjoy, and this video is the beginning of that. In this video, we had a live stream with our members, and they were able to comment on the types of additional content they'd like to see. We also did a little haul video, so you'll get to see some show and tell with some pretty neat items. And if you'll stay tuned near the end of the video, we'll talk more about what the next membership tier is going to be as a result of the feedback that we got from our members and from you. So enjoy the video, and we'll be back to talk to you in a little bit.
All right. Well, it's good to be with you live. I haven't done a lot of lives before, so this will be fun and interesting for all of us, I'm sure. And I really appreciate, oh, good. Okay. You're all saying you see me. All clear, Captain. All right. Got it. I really first want to say thank you so much for joining as members. I was really kind of floored by the response, and I'm excited about it. I think it's going to help us to create some additional things that are going to be fun for everybody. I said originally that I really want everything to be available to everybody in the long run, and that's true, but you are all members now, and I do want to do some things that are special just for you. And one thing I have never done before is a live haul video. So I am going to show you just a few things before we talk about future content stuff and the results of some of the comments and suggestions that you've made and how to go about doing that. But I was on my way back. I did a big show in Kansas this weekend for Labor Day. It was the Sparks, Kansas, how do they call it? Antique and collectible flea market. So it was all of those things. There were true antiques, there were good vintage items, and there was rusty junk galore. And I had a lot of fun, and it went pretty well. And I stayed on the way back in Columbia, Missouri, and there is an antique mall near there called Artichoke Annie's that I really like. And so I hit there on the way, and then I hit a place in Fairview, Illinois, just on the other side of St. Louis, called the St. Clair Antique Mall. And I think Jeffrey at Real Nifty Vintage had been there once, and I'd heard of them. And that turned out to be a great place to find some bargains. It was not nearly as nice or friendly as the other place, but it was actually really a very good place to shop. So let me show you just a few things I bought just for fun. I'm going to start with Lucy Van Pelt, because a bunch of you were mentioning that our little lounge music there sounded like Schroeder from Peanuts. And so it made me laugh that I just happened to get a Lucy figure. One thing about Peanuts figures, you can't really see here, but on the back of her head, it says copyright 1966. And the reason that's significant is that a whole lot of Peanuts figures say copyright 1958 and 1970. That's because those were the 2 years that Schultz got most of his copyrights on everything, and they kept using those dates forever and ever and ever. So there's brand new things made in 2020 that say copyright 1958 and 1970. When you see any of those other numbers, it means they're actually old, because they did copyright things as they came out. And this was actually made by Mattel, so it's the same material they used to make Barbies. And I think she was all of about $4.50. And of course, Charles Schultz is no longer with us, and Peanuts is. And so that was a fun thing to get. I think like I said, I paid all of about $5 for it, and it is in great condition. Yes, I like that about it too. And so hopefully someone else will find that entertaining. I also, you got a Lego Snoopy bobblehead. That is cool. I have not actually seen one of those before, and Lego stuff is starting to be really collectible. Even stuff that isn't that old is pretty collectible in Lego. I got the Kellogg's Rhyme and Color book. This is actually something that I'm going to give to my mother for her 88th birthday next month, because her father worked for W.K. Kellogg, so she loves all this old stuff because she grew up with it back in the day. We're in a political year, and I got a couple of political collectibles because they sell anytime, and especially this year. The one I got that was the probably most serious and potentially most valuable is this one. This is for the presidential inauguration of Lyndon Baines Johnson, and this would have actually been given to people in Washington, D.C. During the inauguration. And so this is actually kind of a special thing. And it was under $10, which was shocking to me. I think it's probably worth $30 or $40. They had some other political stuff I thought was kind of cute. And these things are, we vary in our respect for our political leaders. When Jimmy Carter was elected, there were lots of things because he'd been a peanut farmer in the shape of peanuts with Jimmy Carter on him. And this little guy winds up and is a walker. And so this is actually a pretty cool thing, and also was under $5. And, our President Carter is now quite elderly, and it sounds ghoulish to say, but when famous people pass on, the things related to them become popular again. Now, there also is interest in disrespectful political items, and this one definitely is something that would have been on someone who was probably anti-Vietnam War and didn't think a lot about what LBJ had to say. And again, that was about a $5 item. I sell a lot of this kind of thing in a political year like this. And the last one, equal time here, is that we have the Spiro Agnew watch. Now, I've bought Spiro Agnew watches over the years, and they used to sell for about $20. Well, this one is by the Dirty Time Company, which was a reference to some of the legal trouble that Mr. Agnew got into as vice president. And these are now selling for about $60 online. I was quite surprised. So when I saw this one priced at $20, which is the old price I used to charge, I thought, aha, very interesting. So that's our little political segment. Since we're on the topic of advertising, this is something for those of you who are resellers. Look for these, and not specifically Burwood, but anything that is a plaque that was done as a dealer display, because for every company that made stuff, they might have sent a few thousand of these around the company to be used in displays where their items were sold. So they're really quite scarce. I have one for Treasure Craft that I think is worth about $75 now. And this is Burwood. Now, this is Burwood before they became known for the injected molded plastic. This is the old school where they and Sirocco Wood did the wood chips that were put together with glue and then molded. And so there it is. Anyhow, that was about a $25 or $30 piece, and I think it cost about $15. So that was fun. One more advertising bit here. This is a little guy here. This is a hood ornament, but it's not just a rearing horse, which to me would have been plenty good enough. On the other side, I see the word white, and that is White Motors. White Motors during the Depression decided they were just going to make trucks, and so this would have come off a semi-truck probably in the 50s or 60s. I paid $30 for this. Hood ornaments are very popular, and anything that's a figure, and the fact that it's also an advertising piece, if this was the Mack Bulldog, it'd be worth, I think, about $75, so I figured the White Horse probably is worth something as well. And so that was a fun thing to find. I've been trying to find a lot of things in the $50 to $100 range for retail sales, because I do a lot of shows, and I know that when you see a lot of the live sales, things are a little less expensive than that, but at the shows, people are there in person and they'll step up for a little better item. One more advertising thing, it just seemed like there was a lot of good advertising stuff. This was a product, you'll see these around a lot, and they only sell for about $40 to $40 to $50 each. Champagne was the product. It was around 1970. It was an attempt to make an ale taste like champagne. we do a lot of that sort of stuff now, and like wine coolers and that kind of thing. And nowadays they're popular, but back in 1965 to 70 when they were putting these out, it really wasn't a big hit. So it didn't last on the market very long. But now these little advertising pieces sell for, 50 and 65 a piece. So they are something to look for as well. Let's see here. I wanted to show a couple of ceramic pieces. This one was kind of a sleeper. It was priced at $9, and that is because this is the original ones. And this is McCoy. But McCoy initially would decorate the back, and they didn't put McCoy on the back or the bottom. So you have to know this is a McCoy piece, and I think the person I got it from just thought it was pretty and decorative. And so they priced it for pretty and decorative, and I'm going to sell it to a McCoy collector for about 3 times as much because they will know it for what it is. I have someone who is a tobacco-related collector, and so I picked up this. It's got a motto on it by Bulwer saying, "He who does not smoke has either known no great grief or refuseth himself the softest consolation next to that which comes from heaven." It's interesting to me. Obviously, 100 years ago, the attitudes towards smoking were a little different than they are now, but this would have been a pipe stand. Here's where the pipes went. It's a little dusty. It had been hanging on the wall of this mall for a long time in a very obscure place, and I don't think anyone ever saw it. Your tobacco pouch would go here, and this over here would be for your matches. And so for someone who collects tobacco-related things, this is a pretty good piece, probably worth about $35, and I think I paid about half that. I will step up a little bit more if I'm buying something with a certain collector in mind, because I figure it's more likely to sell quickly, and I like to feed people's collections, and it's fun to get to see people and get to know them and what they collect. So, sometimes I'll pay more if I feel like I have a ready customer that way. 1 or 2 other little things I wanted to show you. This bears some mention. I had Bauer in a thrifting video recently, and this one is, the rings are a little hard to get to come into focus. There we go. And you can see on the bottom it's marked Bauer 18. This is worth about $35 to $40. I wanted to point out this. When you're buying something for resale, you really have to be cognizant of what the collectors understand and what they think about things. This is not actually damaged. This is a glaze skip. It's where the glaze stuck to the kiln and they had to scrape it off a little bit. It's on the bottom where you can't really see it. If it was on the top edge and it was a glaze skip, I would not buy this piece because the collector will look at it, and even if it's not a chip, it looks like a chip to them. On the bottom, not so worried. So that's the rationale with something like that. Just a couple more things here, 3 or 4. This piece here, you see the thistle on the one side, and on the back is a motto. This is Torquay motto ware. Even though the motto is done in a Scottish brogue and the thistle is on the front, it actually is marked Torquay, Devon, and I believe this is Watcombe. It's a little hard. The mark's a little obscured. Now, motto ware is another thing that doesn't sell for as much as it used to, but I have a couple of real serious collectors for this, and also a lot of people who are into Scottish Highland games and that sort of stuff like to collect these kind of things. So I thought that was a fun thing to get. Let's see, 3 more things here. We'll kind of try to make it fast because I do want to talk to you about where we're going from here with all of this. So this guy is Yadro, and he might be a little hard to focus. Let's see. There we go. Okay, so this one's the golfer. I have the large couple who are golfing, and that one's worth several hundred. This one usually sells for about 75 to 85. There was a dealer who was going out of business and having a half-off sale, and they had quite a bit of Yadro, and the 2 pieces I bought were the golfer and the polar bear. And they've got nice marks on them. You can date Yadro by all these other little marks, and it doesn't seem to matter a whole lot to the collectors as long as the pieces are discontinued. The little bears sell for about $30 now, and it's just really good quality stuff. And so, and the really large pieces are still very, very pricey. And let's see, I'm going to show you a little bit of glass and then one last thing I really liked, and then we'll move on to some other topics here. I bought one thing I know well. This little piece here you will see sometimes. This one's in Ruby Crackle. Ruby always was a little more expensive in most glass companies' lines, with the exception of Anchor Hawking. But this one is a Viking glass patio light. It was one of the first things made to hold little candles in the 1960s, and it came in all the colors they did, but Ruby is a little more valuable than the rest. They seem to be selling for about $30 these days, and that one I believe was only $8 or $9 because it wasn't something that they recognized. So that's a good thing for you folks out there, both collectors and resellers, to look for. And then these two decanters are things that I know a little about, and if anyone else out there knows more, I'd be open to help. But this one, also in Ruby Red, I'll have to hold it sideways because it's rather large so that you can kind of see most of it. But this one is Italian, I believe. It is hand blown, and that's the reason I got it. It does not have the feel of greasy new glass, and it's got these pinch sides. I believe these were done about 1970. And then this one, I believe, is 1980s. It has sort of a deco style, but it's kind of Memphis design looking, with the strong geometry and the stopper being a different color than the base. Again, does not have the greasy feel of new glass. That's why I did not think that this was a new piece from offshore. I don't buy the offshore pieces. This one was blown into a mold, so it does not have a pontil mark. So those are going to be my research projects. One last thing we'll show here, and then we'll move on to the topics that we actually were here to discuss. But thank you for indulging me. I've always wanted to do a live haul, and this is a fun excuse to do it. So maybe we'll do some of these again. This piece here is the classic dog Nutcracker. Now, we see these time to time. They're not terribly uncommon in and of themselves, but there are a couple of things about this one that are really different. This one, first of all, you notice it's colored brown, and that is enameled. It's very similar to like granite ware, so they've enameled over iron in this case. And you can see that they've given it a texture so that it looks more like dog hair. And that is unusual. These are almost always just a solid cast iron with no paint. And they never typically have this kind of a finish on them. The other thing that's unusual about it is when you look at the bottom, and this is why I was willing to pay $60 for this, it says that it is by the makers of Headlight Stones and Ranges of Chicago, Illinois. So this is an advertising piece. This would have been to show the colors that they could enamel your wood-burning stove in. And it was to remind you that, I'm not sure how often you were going to look at the bottom of this to be reminded, but basically it was to remind you to go back and buy their stove. So this was actually an advertising premium. Well, suddenly that makes it collectible by a whole different group of people, not just people who like old Nutcrackers or cast iron or dogs, but people who like old advertising. And I looked on the computer. There's nothing like this that's been for sale recently. And the ones that were just painted that were not advertising were selling for $125 to $150. So I was reasonably content to spend $60 on that. And that's something to look for when you're looking at old look for things under things. It's not always what you see on the surface that makes something valuable. Now, Yvonne asks, why is the red pinch decanter not Blanco? And I want to show you a couple of things. The first thing is that the pontil mark here, and hopefully I can get it to come in a little better. There we go. You notice it's been polished some. If it was polished completely off very smoothly, I would be afraid that it might be new Chinese. But Blanco never used any tool to polish a circle like this on their glass. So that makes it not Blanco. Also, Blanco pontils, you can see a little of the pontil here. This is where they have the blowpipe when they're blowing the piece of glass and they snap it off. This is very rough on a Blanco piece. And on this piece, it's fairly smooth. And that means that somebody went in and did something to it to make it smooth. And Blanco was notorious for leaving very messy, sharp pontils that almost could cut you. The other thing is that now someone has put tape on here to make the stopper fit the bottle better. Blanco would always polish, and you'd see almost like sandblasting, like satin glass, because they would polish the stopper to fit the bottle exactly so it wouldn't rattle. Italian companies didn't usually do that, and that's what makes me think that's an Italian piece. So there's a couple of things there.
So while I'm thinking of it, please comment in the space below here, and also hit the thumbs up button to like this video. If you haven't subscribed, click the subscribe button below. Also hit the bell below to be notified of new videos coming every Monday and Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern. And thank you so much for following along. Let's go back to this video.
When I talked about all of you about memberships, and you were so kind to respond, one of the things I said was I'd like to know a little bit about what you would like to see in terms of future content. And first I asked about challenges. Now, challenges might be something where maybe members would have early access, or that sort of thing, or you might see the video first, or that kind of thing. With challenges, it's where we challenge other resellers to do a similar video and we create a playlist. So that's not something that I can make exclusive to members, but we might be able to do it where it would premiere to you first. And here were some of the ideas that you had for challenges. One was a lot of people are interested in thrifting. And so one was go to a thrift store or thrift stores, videotape 3 items that you found when you purchased them, videotape when or how you sell them, and they all have to be things where you triple your money. And I think that sounds like an interesting challenge. Another thing that was suggested was redecorating a space in vintage. That's a little more of a long-term thing. I know during the lockdown, a few people did those sort of things individually. It would be fun to do a challenge. And that would be something where I would love to see some of you folks out there. I know Mark, Constellation Pegasus, had a shelf that he redid. And that brings us to another thing that somebody said too, which is repurpose a thrift find. And he redid a shelf and did a nice display of a bunch of things that he's added to his collection recently, a lot of small items, and it was really neat looking. And that might be something where actually members could participate as well. And all you'd have to do is take a video and be able to give it to me in some form I could upload, and we could all do something like that. So, conceivably a challenge could be within this group of people, and we could do something that would be fun and then put it out. Another challenge idea was that we have a craft or fail challenge. So we all go to a thrift store and buy something really horrible that we find that somebody made. And I thought it sounded great. And one of the viewers who's a crafter was very unhappy with that idea, because she said, well, what if it ends up being something that I gave to my grandchildren? I don't want to see that on a video. So I think that we could certainly do something along that line. We might just have to be sensitive. And these are things, again, I know not all of you are content creators, but if you wanted to participate in things like this, I think it would be great fun, and we could do some things in and of ourselves and then release it to the bigger world. And I think that would be a really fun way to involve them. I just like the idea of this being a community where we do things together. Live hauls are something that, now that I'm understanding how to, and had a lot of help from Xenomorph, who I want to thank yet again for being able to help me get online and do things live. I think that there is potential to do more of this sort of thing, and that's something that we can do together. And it's a nice thing for me too. I know a lot of people like to pre-record these and release them, and then they have the stuff and they sell it online. And when my shows are not in season, I'm sure I'll do more of that too. But it's hard for me. A lot of times things come and go so fast, and then people are disappointed because, oh, I saw that in your video and you're telling me it's sold already. So this is a nice way to be able to actually get it out instantaneously. As far as member content, I guess it really came down to really 4 main categories. I'll talk about 2 other things too first. Somebody suggested that maybe shopping with the Antique Nomad could be a member perk. And to be honest with you, if I am in your area or headed through your area and you want to get together, I would love that. I'm not sure how I would make that a member benefit, because it would all be subject to where I was headed. As much as I would love to go to New Zealand and go shopping, I'm probably not headed there next week. So the second thing that was suggested, which I think is a really good idea and an eventual idea because of circumstances right now, is a member meetup. I think that would be a wonderful thing to do, and several of you mentioned that, and we will do something like that someday, I'm sure. I think we're all excited about the idea. Some of the potential tiers could be, they really fell into 4 categories that people suggested. One is categories themselves. So, for example, several people mentioned specific things they'd like to know more about, and generally it was what the items are, how to tell what they are, marks, terminology, what's it used for? For example, here's a bunch of kitchen collectibles. What are they for? I think that's a legitimate question. I do find, having been in the antique and vintage business for a long time, that we start to assume everybody knows what we know, and we get into trouble for that. I remember when I first worked in an antique mall, my mother was not a cook, and there were all these kitchen implements, and there was something, and I kept saying, what is that red thing that looks like a sled? And everyone laughed, and they said, well, it's a potato cutter, of course. Well, I had no idea. I'd never seen one in my life. I do want to hit on something that Xenomorph said. Do you all know how to access the community tab? It's not one of the things you can access on a TV, unfortunately. We did a little poll earlier today asking where you folks are viewing this, partly because we want to create content that you are all able to access. And those of you who watch on TV get a bigger, better picture and get to see all of the shakiness and flaws and flubs really well in large format. The problem is that it's not as interactive as being on a computer. You're not able to connect back in the same way. So we will try to keep that in mind when we figure out some of these things we want to do. I'm trying to think of things that you can enjoy and be involved with regardless of what format you're watching this on. Category primers. Now, people suggested some very specific things like Holt Howard pottery and silver jewelry and things like that. And some people suggested broader categories like porcelain dolls or Victorian glass or vintage lighting. California pottery. Those were all things that were already suggested. I like all of those ideas. The only problem with things that specific is they will happen when a collection becomes available. Now, if any of you folks have collections that you would like to share for that kind of a review, that would be terrific. And you can certainly contact me. Email is theantiquenomad@gmail.com. I would love to do specific things on a category of collecting, but as much merchandise as I come into and see and have, I still don't have enough of one particular item a lot of the time to really do that at a level that would be as useful as I would want it to be. So what I've thought after reading this is that I'll start accumulating photos and information and try to make an archive of things as I go along. And when I have enough to really, or when someone presents a collection or I meet a collector who would like to have me come into their house and film, then I can do things that are more specific like that. Here we go. You're more than welcome to share anything from my collections, from antique lamps to jukeboxes. Well, that's great, James. You know, any of you folks who feel that way, let's find a way to connect, and we will try to figure out how to bring that, because I think that would be really interesting for everybody involved. And I think any of you who have collections you'd like to share, I would love this to be a platform to do that. So send me an email, theantiquenomad@gmail.com. If you're interested in sharing information or video or pictures of your collection, I can certainly take that and make it into something that we all could share together, and that would be a great way to build the community. If you have specific collections that we could work with to highlight some of those things, then that content can probably come faster. Otherwise, It'll have to build over time as I'm able to build enough of a catalog of it to make the correct presentation. But that definitely is something that I think could be a tier for membership or particular things. Kind of an adjunct to that, another area that people mentioned were how-tos, and someone just mentioned how to clean. Someone else mentioned how to look for fakes. I've had people suggest how to choose and set up a show booth or an antique mall space. What do you look for? What do you say, oh yeah, that's going to be great, or what do you avoid? And there are some real tricks to that. So if those are categories or areas of interest for you, let me know, because those might be one-off things that we could do for members first and give you early access to that, if that would be useful to you. There are definitely certain things. How to set up and hold an estate sale is probably the one I'm going to do first, because I just conducted an estate sale where I was able to show the before, when we first walked in, what it looked like when we set it up, and what it looked like after the sale. And then one of my viewers actually came to the sale, and she went shopping, and she will let me use her video of that experience to show what it was like from her perspective. So I think I can put together here's how an estate sale works. And I think that might be really interesting. Okay, so category primers, how-tos. Another thing, if anyone, and this is more if you were contemplating being a professional seller, so this might not be for everyone, but if this interests you, let me know. Someone said, how do you pack? How do you pack a box to ship? How do you pack a van to go to a sale? How do you pack a bag for a flight? And I have to tell you, being the Antique Nomad, I have learned, one of my early videos is me grumbling about how Delta broke a bunch of my stuff because they took my bag from me that I had packed with all my breakables. So I definitely know some things like that. Someone else had said, what to buy and sell in different places. How does this business vary by region? And it really does. And that would be something that would be interesting to share with you. If that's interesting to you folks, that would be something we could do for a member video. So, and then the last two, and I have to say these two are probably more possible to do sooner, these last two categories of suggestions. One was sales for members. Some people suggested that maybe we should have live sales. I've contemplated doing live sales. I wouldn't mind doing them. My main concern with a live sale is not everybody can participate, depending on what kind of a device they have, or if they have slow internet, that can be a problem. So it may be something that would be of interest to you folks, but another way it could be done is that we could I could film everything that I'm putting on eBay, for example, and that way you would know it was actually going to be for sale. Only members would see the live thing, and the live would be me showing and telling like I did tonight, but then saying, okay, now it's going on eBay right now here, and it'd be at a buy it now or auction price, and here's the item, and here's the link, and you would have first access. This way it would be a preview, and everyone would have an opportunity. If it was of interest to them, it wouldn't just be whoever types in a number first gets it. I have indeed focused on real world selling over eBay. And again, there's a few reasons for that. I love the personal interaction. And like I said, it really is more efficient. And truthfully, as a reseller, and some of you are, so you'll understand this, I think, for an expensive item, eBay is a wonderful place to sell. You get an international market and you can do just great. For an item that's nice and collectible, that's maybe $20, you're giving, if it's an item that's worth $20 and you sell it on eBay, you're getting $10 and the United States Postal Service is getting $10. So how cheap do you have to buy it to make any money? And how can you offer a better deal to somebody? If I'm at a show and I have a $20 item, I can offer it to someone for $18 or $17, and they're getting a little discount, and I'm getting the money that would go to the United States Postal Service. And that's part of the reason I like the live direct sales and have favored them. So So with the eBay stuff, it definitely, I think what I'd like to know is, are there particular things that you really like? So maybe doing this would be a way to get me to do it a little more routinely, at least monthly, so that you'd have a chance to see some of my things. I always have listings on eBay, but they're primarily sports cards and books because a friend of mine helps me, and he always keeps those categories running so that there's always something on my site. But it may not be a lot of the regular antique and vintage things you see me handling otherwise, and that's the reason. So yeah, I think that maybe this is a good idea. The last area then I did want to talk about was appraisals. And this is something that I think would be fun to do and would be something that I'm used to doing and could provide for you if this was of interest. And that would be, we could have an appraisal fair every month where members at a certain, at a certain tier, you could send in a picture, send in an item, send in a video, show me something that you found that you're not sure about, or something that you really want to show off, or something that is special, like a family heirloom that you've never really had looked at before. And I can, and also your contact information. And that way, if I need additional background to make sure that I can give you the right answer and really know what we're showing, then I would create a video each month with your contributions, your items that you would like to know more about, and create a video where we would do show and tell with your items rather than mine. It's a lot of fun. When I do them live, I think that they're really very interesting in that regard. It's something that everybody could be part of. It doesn't matter what part of the world you're in. Anybody would be able to participate, and I like that idea too. And that would be something where it would be released to members first, and the members would supply the items for that, and then it would be it could be released to everybody so that everyone else could learn and enjoy it as well. In general, I know I've said from the start, I want things that are, since you're helping, frankly, finance additional content, which I'm very grateful for, I want it to benefit you and to give you additional information, advantages, and honor and respect the fact that you're helping me. But I do believe in trying to make things available to everyone as well, because that's part of the joy of collecting, is that it's the great equalizer. If you collect, Dom Nancy cameo glass or Peanuts figurines, you're equal in my eyes because you have the collector bug and you get it. Those are the basic ideas that came from all of you. I think there's so many good ideas in all of this, and I really want to start to implement some of them. So what I think I'd like to do, I've gotten some good feedback from you watching the comments, and I'm open to more feedback now. And then hopefully by next month, we'll have our first additional content of one form or another. I'm just really appreciative and thankful for all of you to come and spend time with me and to give me your thoughts. I'm really excited. The show this weekend, there was another little town up the road that also did a swap meet the same weekend. And there was a guy there who had a collection of marbles. He's been in the business 30 or 40 years. I've always heard there were a lot of things about marbles. He sat there and gave me a 5 or 10 minute tutorial while he pointed at boxes of all these marbles, and it turned out marbles are really pretty interesting. And so this is helping me stretch and learn more too, and I'll get to share that with you really soon. So we'll try to make some things, maybe do some different things and try them a little bit. And thank you all so much. You just say such kind things to me, and I really am very grateful that there's a group of you out there who really are interested in this, and it's really reinvigorated my interest in the business, because I've done this a long time, and it's just always exciting to see other people. It's not like, oh yeah, here we are doing the same old thing. It's like, wow, this is fresh and new, and it makes it fresh and new to me. So I appreciate all of you too. I guess that I don't really have anything more to say for tonight other than thank you again. I will come back to you pretty soon. With that, I guess I'll say goodnight and thank you all very much.
Well, I hope you enjoyed this additional video, and thanks to our current members for providing the source to do this. And I wanted to talk about what we decided based on what you just saw. The next membership tier is going to start soon, and it will be $3.99 a month. And for that, what members will get at that level is the opportunity to see a special haul video every month, and that haul will then go live on eBay at the end of those videos. And members will have the first ability to see the items going on eBay. The listings will be very basic, so members will find them before the general public. Things will be buy it now or auction. So if people see things they like, they will be able to go straight to eBay and buy them directly at the end of that video. And that will give us an opportunity to create more haul videos and more information, which eventually will go to all of our subscribers. But it also gives us an opportunity to do some things that people have really been asking for, which is to put more things out where people who are interested in them can buy them, and where they don't have to compete in a live sale where they might have differing internet speeds or things like that, or different devices that they use to access this information. So if you are interested in memberships at any level, please hit the join button and you can go right to our members page and find out more about it all. Thank you so much for joining us. This is George the Antique Nomad. I'm on Periscope, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, and we're glad to have you with us as subscribers, viewers, and for some of you, hopefully members. Bye-bye now.
Thanks for joining me again in the fun and fascinating antique community, here where online meets the real world. Please click the subscribe button below, click the bell to be notified when new videos upload, leave a comment below, and hit thumbs up to like this video. Links to our online social media daily posts and our items for sale are in the description. This is George at the Antique Nomad. Bye for now.